Hello again, Newick. Here I am, back again, ready to read the next part of The Lion and the Unicorn. Can you remember that Lenny got to a little door in a garden and he pushed it open because he knew that there was going to be a secret garden inside. And there inside was a little garden, like a room without a roof. It had criss-cross mossy paths lined with knee-high hedges and stone seats. In the centre was a great rosebush with trailers which swept the ground. It was very quiet in there. Then a bird flew up with a great clatter of wings, and Lenny saw something on the far side of the garden, high up on a pedestal by the wall. At first he thought it was something alive and watching him, but it was too still to be alive, and he went over to it. It was a unicorn, carved in stone, just like the one on his badge. It did not look fierce, strong perhaps, and very beautiful with its curved neck and long mane. Prancing there alone in the shadow of the wall, it seemed as lonely as he was. Lenny felt a huge relief to have found this place. It made him feel more like himself again. He made up his mind to come back there whenever he could. There's the garden and the picture of the unicorn. On Monday morning, the evacuees started at the village school. The children were not friendly. They looked at Lenny blankly as though he wasn't there. When the bell went for morning prayers, Lenny had to stay alone in the classroom sitting at a desk. In the playground, Joyce, Patsy and Winnie went off together. Lenny was not included in the boys' football game. He stood by the wall until it was time to go home, clutching Dad's badge in his pocket and pretending he didn't care. On Saturday nights, the evacuees had a bath, and Nanny inspected their heads for nits. The bath was huge and had iron feet with claws like a lion. They were only allowed 4 inches of hot water, so that's not very much at all. That's probably about that much. It was rationed like almost anything else, and by the time it was Lenny's turn, it wasn't even hot anymore. Joyce was Nanny's favourite. Nanny curled her hair for her and pressed her hair ribbons for church on Sunday. Joyce put on a special cute voice when she talked to grown-ups, but when the evacuees were on their own, she was sharp-tongued and treacherous. There he is, having his weekly bath with Nanny, looking at his hair for nits. Lenny spent a lot of time wandering alone in the gardens when no one bothered him. One afternoon, when he pushed open the door of the walled garden, he found somebody else there. A young man with one leg was sitting on one of the stone benches. He was wearing an old tweed jacket with patched elbows. His empty trouser leg was pinned up, and his crutches were propped neatly against the bench beside him. "Hello there," said the man. "It's all right, I do live here. I was just trying to do a bit of weeding." "Are you Bill Penny's helper?" Lenny asked him. "Sort of," said the man. "I used to shoot rabbits and pigeons when they got into his vegetable garden, but I don't anymore. This is one of my favourite places." Lenny hovered by the gate, not sure what to say next. "My name's Mick," the man continued. "Don't let me having one leg bother you." "How did you lose it?" Lenny wanted to know. "I left it on a beach in France," the man told him. "But I'll be getting a new one soon." "Will it be wooden?" "No, like metal, I think, with joints." There was a friendly silence. Then Lenny remembered he wasn't supposed to talk to strangers. He was not sure whether, as this man lived here, he counted as a stranger or not, but he thought he had better be there on the safe side. "I've got to go now," he said. Mick just waved. Oh, I'll show you a picture of Mick sitting on the bench. There he is. On wet days, Lenny sometimes followed Nellie about the house as she cleaned and dusted. In the great hall there was a suit of armour, swords hanging on the walls, and pictures of battle scenes with soldiers in red coats. There was one full-length portrait of a very grand officer in a special uniform. "That's Lady Devass's grandfather," said Nellie. "They've got a lot of soldiers in the family. Lady Devass's husband was killed in the First World War, and her son is a war hero. He's got medals and all." "My dad's in the army," Lenny told her. "I'm joining up myself soon," said Nellie. "Women's Land Army." There's Nellie. Lenny longed for Mum to come, but she wrote to say that she would not visit until he had settled down. She was working in a fireman's canteen. She was not a good writer and her letters were short, but she saved up her sweet ration and sent Lenny a bar of chocolate now and again. Lenny saw Mick about the place sometimes, helping Bill Penny or Lady Devasse, but he never came into the kitchen for his meals. "There's something been killing rabbits in my vegetable garden," said Bill one afternoon when he was supping up his tea. "Not that I mind," he added, "I'm glad of it." "A fox?" suggested Mrs. B. "No, it's never a fox. More like a big cat. It got some pigeons too." "It'll be one of those wild cats that's living in the barn," said Mrs. Bean. "Very fierce they are." "Or perhaps a lion escaped from the zoo," said Joyce, slyly looking sideways at Lenny. "Lions kill people. They wait in the dark and spring out at you and tear your stomach out." She doesn't sound very jolly, does she? There we go. That night, long after the others had gone to sleep, Lenny lay awake listening to the night noises outside. Far away in the dark, he thought he heard a growling, purring sound, then a shriek of an animal in pain. He got up and peeped through the curtains. Was there something prowling about? A black shadow moving alongside the hedge? He hurried back and pulled the blankets right over his head. Lenny thought about Mum and Dad a lot, hoping and hoping they were safe. He longed to see them again. At school, things had got a lot worse. The boys had started to shout things at him and make fun of his name. "Lenny Levi's done a wee-wee," they jeered. "Wets his bed." Lenny turned hot with anger and shame. It was true about the bed. It was only sometimes, and he didn't think anyone at school knew about it. He guessed that Joyce must have told them about it. Nanny was grim-faced in the morning when she had to deal with wet sheets, but Nellie found out and came to Lenny's rescue. "You can beat this, Lenny," she told him. "Everybody does in the end." She smuggled some spare bedclothes into the attic so that Lenny could put them on before Nanny came in the morning. She whisked away wet sheets and washed them herself, and she lent Lenny her big alarm clock. Lenny set it twice in the night and it went off with a great clang, but the girls never woke up. The bedwetting got better, but the boys at school went on teasing. There's that nice Nellie sorting him out. One afternoon, Mick came across Lenny, sitting hunched on a bench in the walled garden, and he politely failed to notice his red-rimmed eyes. "Homesick?" he asked. At first, Lenny was too upset to answer. Then he blurted out all about the boys and what they said. "It's not even true anymore. Well, hardly at all, but I don't suppose they'll ever stop saying it." "I used to wet my bed when I was your age," Mick told him. "It was when they sent me away to boarding school." "Had you done something wrong?" asked Lenny. "No, they thought it would do me good," said Mick. "My father went there. It was awful. I got teased all the time. Then it started again when I was in the hospital after." He looked down at where his leg had been. "But you were grown up by then," said Lenny, amazed. "Yes, I cried a lot too, but I got through it somehow. And so will you, or my name's not Mick Devasse." There was a long silence. Lenny stared at Mick. "You're the war hero," he said at last. "You've got medals for bravery. Nellie told me." Oh, I'll show you a picture of him. "I was frightened all the time in the fighting," said Mick. "But I suppose you can't be brave if you're not frightened in the first place." "My father was really brave, a fine officer. I'm only a private." "My dad's a private," said Lenny proudly. "He's fighting the Germans. Like you did, I've got his badge." "I never wanted to fight Germans or anyone else," Mick told him. "It's cruelty, bullying and oppression we're fighting against." Lenny was not quite sure what this meant, but he got the general idea. "I used to come here to this garden to see the unicorn when I was a boy in the school holidays," said Mick. "I used to long to be brave and manly and all the things they wanted me to be, but there are different kinds of courage, and I'll tell you one thing, the boys who say those things to you, they haven't got any courage at all. None at all." Later, when he was alone, Lenny thought a lot about what Mick had said. Gradually, the bedwetting stopped altogether. Knowing a real war hero who's had the same problem helped. He even forgot about prowling lions. But then something happened that was much, much worse. And you're going to find out about that tomorrow. See you later, Newick.